Our world is fragile, our life is fragile, our technology is fragile. And the more time passes, the more we bond to it, and the more fragile we become. What is an EMP, and what would happen if an EMP hit the Earth? An EMP can be triggered mainly by two factors. The first is a large coronal mass ejection from the Sun or a very powerful solar flare. And given that we are in the midst of a solar maximum expected to culminate between 2024 and 2025, we certainly have reason to worry or at least remain alert. In the second case, an EMP can be triggered by a detonation of a nuclear device at high altitude. It is very easy to imagine how many countries wish to bend the West and have equipped themselves with nuclear weapons purchased on the black market after the collapse of the Soviet Union. In both cases, the damage would be enormous, with immediate regional or even global consequences. Vast blackouts would hit the electricity grid, overloading it and short-circuiting grid transformers. If an EMP hit a large population center or an entire region, the cities would be plunged into total darkness and nothing would be as before. The beginning. Unfortunately, at the moment there is no sufficiently effective warning system to warn the population and above all the electricity network managers with sufficiently long notice. Even in the case of a missile attack in the upper atmosphere, reaction times are only a few minutes. If the EMP pulse were powerful enough to undermine the Earth's magnetic field, the first thing we would see would be spectacular auroras even at low latitudes. Power lines would fail due to overloads. And in the worst case they would leave entire regions in the dark. Without essential services, such as drinking water or sewage. The electronic devices that we love so much and that make our lives easier should be destroyed. Our beloved smartphones would stop working. And at the same time thousands of cars would suffer catastrophic malfunctions due to the EMP pulse, causing thousands of accidents and tens of thousands of injuries, paralyzing the streets, and leading the health system to collapse. Furthermore, without electricity, the elevators would stop working and thousands of people would be forced to evacuate on foot from the skyscrapers, increasing the chaos already present on the streets. In the meantime, the electricity companies would try to estimate the damage, but only to realize that the damage is too extensive, and that repairs would take months, perhaps years in the worst-case scenario. Electricity would be cut off in all affected areas, plunging society into a technological Middle Ages. But this is just the beginning. What to do? First of all, don't be discouraged. We cannot predict when such a problem will strike, but it will certainly happen, so we must prepare ourselves. Basics. Elements. Water. There are very specific guidelines on the matter from bodies such as FEMA, which intervenes following natural disasters. When an EMP hits, all electrical systems within range of the event will fail or be damaged, including water purification and pumping systems. For this reason you should have at least a supply of water aside. Don't underestimate this element, and even if you live in a small apartment and don't have much space to dedicate to your supplies, take advantage of the environment and your imagination. You can store it under the bed, inside a closet, or on top of the kitchen cabinets, being careful not to overdo the weight. Start preparing now, with little, and over time you will grow, until you reach your goal. But at least try to set aside 2.5 liters per day for each adult, and 2 liters for each child. You can also get a camping reverse osmosis filter. They are very compact and efficient. The food. Even in this case, space can be a problem, but don't despair, the same advice as before applies. Store your food where you can, but if you do, note where you put what and take into account expiration dates. Choose non-perishable foods with long shelf life. But, buy things wisely and taking into account your tastes and the tastes of your family members. First aid. Remember, the unexpected is always around the corner, so always keep with you something to treat wounds or abrasions. Also try to improve your first aid skills, you may need it. Extras. As far as I'm concerned, I don't include goods that are useful for immediate survival in the extras, but they are still very important to have and can make the difference. Batteries, especially in one of EMP, having a good supply of the formats that adapt to your tools such as flashlights or battery-operated radios is very important. A battery-operated radio, which could be very useful for understanding whether help is on the way or other vital news. Let's remember that following an EMP, digital communications could be seriously damaged for a long period of time. One or more flashlights. I would say that given the current scenario, having some could be priceless. An EMP-proof bag or sack. I have one, in which I always leave a smartphone, a used laptop, a USB stick and some batteries. Comfort goods. Let's not underestimate the stressful conditions that such an event can create on our minds and on those of our loved ones, so give importance even to small pleasures, be it chocolate or some sweets for your little ones. Board games to distract yourself or keep your children busy while you decide what to do and at the same time try to ease the tension. We also need to take time to try to make the right decision for ourselves and our family. Cash. Remember that following an EMP, electronic payments may no longer work until the system is restored. So keep at least a small sum on hand, which could be very useful in these moments to purchase a service, such as a ride for example, if you are away from home, or a good, which is essential for you at that moment. Personal defense. I'm not a big fan of weapons, and having one means being willing to use it. Let's also keep in mind that very often it is possible to get out of bad situations without anyone getting hurt, simply by using the most powerful weapon we have, and which it should be developed every day throughout your life: the dialogue. However, I am not deluded. I know how to handle a weapon, and I know well that there are situations in which the dialogue fails even before it begins. For this reason, I always keep a bottle of pepper spray on hand. If used well, your attacker will be out of action for quite some time. Return to home. When such an event hits, we will never be quite ready, and in any case we cannot predict where we will be at that moment. We could be on holiday or in the wild. Or we could be in our bed sleeping. We could simply be in another city for work. And unless you have already agreed with your family on an evacuation plan for a very specific point, whatever your position, try to return home by all means, especially if you have family members, if you are not alone. But do it quickly, because the situation could quickly escalate on the streets. Remember that there are a lot of people who are eager to use the situation to their advantage. Reorganize your ideas. You are finally home, but this is where your journey begins. Decide with your family what the best choice is, based on your abilities, based on the information you have about the general context. Is it a localized event? Is it a regional event? Or worse yet, global? Think carefully about what to do. Leaving, as long as you have somewhere to go, might not change things. Whatever you have decided, remember the war cannot be won alone. Focus on human relationships, aim to integrate as much as possible into the community you are in, and to make your skills available, whatever they may be. This will make your family and circle more cohesive, and helping your neighbors will make them more inclined to help you when you need it most. I myself have been preparing for years, but I am definitely not Rambo or a Special Forces commando, and yet, in the most difficult situations I have faced, I have always come out with my head held high. Let us remember that behind every end there is always a new beginning. Thank you for your time, and if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to my channel and give me a like. Thank you.